and some of them are returning to their homelands because it's so bad, and it has been bad for the last couple of years. But wages are static, and you get high unemployment, you get tremendous personal debt, you do have 5% savings accounts, which is good, but my guess is that's probably in the middle to upper middle class. I don't think anybody making $22,000 a year is saving anything.
No, I don't think so either. In fact, the only reason this thing has not really gotten into real trouble is because the unemployment benefits, and now, of course, one of the big things about the stimulus bill was to, continue the unemployment benefits for another 6 months, because they don't want the people to be angry. They want to provide for them, because government loves people and want to provide for their health and their education, their welfare. But one of these days, when government runs out of money, then, of course, I think we'll see the iron fist of government coming down. This is what always happens as you approach a dictatorship. And, if you study the history of democracies, they always become dictatorships. That's why our founding fathers gave us a republic. It's a shame. Most people don't even know the difference between a republic and a democracy. Most people don't even know that when Barack Obama promises that he's going to take care of our health care, that he's violating the oath to the Constitution that he swore. Because, of course, it is not the function of government to provide for health care. Yes, people need health care. When I practiced medicine, I went into medicine 50 years ago. Why, every county had a county health care plan. You were obligated as a county to provide health care for the people who needed it. And then the federal government set out to destroy that, and then to destroy the system they created, and of course to create a situation where we are today, where there are 40 million people who don't have access to health care. And of course, certainly we no longer have our county health system to fall back on. They intentionally and maliciously and viciously destroyed that. And tragically now, we do have many people who can't get health care because of the government plan eventually to have not only federal control of health care, but also rationing of health care, because that's what socialized medicine is all about. Rationing of access to health care. And that is what Barack Obama and the people who surround him really want. The very wealthy people. When Barack Obama talks against the big banks in Wall Street and how terrible they are, you've forgotten that the second largest contributor to the Obama campaign was Goldman Sachs. And J.P. Morgan Chase wasn't far behind. And it is the people from those organizations that surround Barack Obama today. But of course, nobody is going to tell you that 11 members of the Trilateral Commission, there's only 86 of them, 87, that includes, of course, the heads of Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan and Citigroup. They're all in this little group of the Trilateral Commission, and 11 of those people are the people who surround the president today and are dictating his policy. And he simply is being a good little puppet, doing exactly what he's told to do. But he sure is charming, has a nice smile, and the American people love him because CBS tells us, and 60 Minutes keeps giving him, about every other week where we have Barack Obama on for half an hour, or at least 20 minutes, with his winning smile and glib responses. But he never tells you that he is really surrounded by the people who financed him and put him in political office and rewarded him very well financially. I understand he's got a nice estate over in Hawaii, a very, very expensive home in Illinois. And you wonder how he could have done that when he's never held a job other than a community organizer. But you go right ahead.
Well, that's the payoff system that we have in America.
It's like suddenly Bill Clinton made and Hillary made $110 million over a period of $110 million, and that was just in their salary. There was another $490 million that went to the Clinton Foundation. After he left the White House. You see, after you've been the president, you're well rewarded for services rendered. The same thing with Alan Greenspan, formerly the chairman of the Federal Reserve System. Why, Alan Greenspan got as much money for his memoirs as the Pope of Rome, with 1.25 million followers. What's wrong with his picture? Hillary Clinton.
Well, I think that the Pope was probably interested in getting to the people with his message and took less money. What do you think?
Well, I think that, of course, it was simply a payoff for Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton got $10 million. Hillary only got $8 million for as an advance on her book. And, of course, Alan Greenspan got $8 million. This is simply payback for services rendered to the establishment. But you go right ahead.
Yeah, there's no question about it. They're just thieves. They're part of the Clinton Bush crime family, and the Bush-Clinton crime family, no matter which way you want to cut it. And they're all evil, and that's their payoff.
In fact, George W. Bush is even going to write a book, and I don't know how much advance he's going to get on his book, but he'll be well rewarded for simply doing what he was told to do. And I think people have to understand there's a force behind the government. And they simply put politicians in power and tell them what to do, and they do what they're told. The man behind George Bush was a man named Dick Cheney. I think the architect of most of these things wrong. Member of the Trilateral Commission, member of the Council on Foreign Relations, member of the Bilderbergers. Of course, in my estimation, one of the evilest people we've ever had, working right out of that White House with a staff of 150 or 200 people. Well, you go right ahead, Bob. Now, what are some of the big things that have happened?
You know, I think, Stan, what you're saying here is what some people are finally coming to realize that they're, you know, this is after like 50 or 60 years, that there's absolutely no difference between the two parties. They don't represent anything except one group of people from behind the scenes, and they all know each other. They all belong to the same gang, and they're just nothing but a corrupt bunch of crooks.
Well, I certainly agree with you. And our telephone number, if you'd like to talk to Bob, you have a question or comment, because we're living in dangerous financial times, and one reason to have Bob on is because I think his views are important. Our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464 if you'd like to talk to Bob. But, Bob, certainly what's happening now as far as the economy is concerned? They tell us that actually home sales are up. Isn't that a good thing?
Well, you know, what they don't tell you is that 45% of those sales were foreclosure sales, and they were bought by speculators. And the inventory is still getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And even with government plans, they're only going to be able to help a portion of the people. They really shouldn't be helped in the first place, because they took loans that they shouldn't have taken, and they knew better. And so, you know, we're paying for them to stay in their homes. And I don't think that's right. And so, you know, where does it all lead to? It leads to continual lower prices for homes. How long is that going to last? 1, 2, 3, 4 more years? And then after it hits bottom, you know, you're looking at 10 or 20 more years on the bottom. I mean, homes were built and made for people to live in. They were not made to be speculative investment vehicles. And so people have got to learn that, at least for now, that game is over. I noticed that Ron Paul did an article, which I'll have in Wednesday's issue, and in there he said, you know, we're headed toward a 15-year depression. And he's absolutely correct.
Well, I fear he is as well. But you see, most people are expecting that things are going to turn around. We're going to go back to the good times that we had. And they certainly were good times, but it was all financed with fiat money. And if you could give everybody in America $1 million, why, it would be tremendous prosperity. But you know, down the line, of course, there's going to be a real problem because, of course, the money is going to become worthless, and the $1 million will be it'll simply destroyed. It'll be equalized, and prices will rise, and then everybody will be living at the same standards they were before you disseminated the $1 million to everybody. But people don't understand that. You cannot have, if you're going to increase the money supply, you have to have productivity along with it. And this is what the one thing. Productivity is falling, and yet they're pumping all this money into the economy, and this is a recipe, in my estimation, for disaster.
Well, productivity has been falling for some time, the last few years. And actually, it's running around 2.5% to 2%, which has been the average since the Second World War. You know, Alan Greenspan used to say, well, productivity is advancing 7% this year.
Hold that. We'll be back in just a moment. Well, this is Dr. Stan. My guest is Bob Chapman. And, of course, if you'd like to talk to him, my number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295.